Hi, Bricklaying for Beginners. So the first two courses I've got here have been already put down by somebody else. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to build on top of that. 1, 2, 3, 4 course. Then we're going to gauge up the sides. I'm going to show you how to gauge the brickwork and basically just run between these two profiles. So all I've got there is a wooden profile on each end, and then I've plumbed that up so it takes away the need to build a corner, if you can see that there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my align blocks on the corners, and I've marked out my gauge in 75mm increments, which of course of bricks is a 10mm bed joint and a 65mm brick, which equals 75mm. So each course of bricks equals 75mm. So basically you're learning the 75 times timetable. So 1 to 75 is 75, 2 times 75 is 150, and 225, 300, 375, 450, and therefore and so on. So the first thing I'm going to do is move my line up to my marked out gauge marks, which I've drawn in pencil on my profile. Now we've got our line set up, nice and tight. We're just going to lay the bed out. I'm right-handed, so I need my left-hand side to the wall, my right hand with my trowel, and my muck there. So first thing, I'm just going to spread that muck out. And the whole time I'm doing that, I'm trying to avoid touching that line. If I constantly bob that line up and down, I may be working with another bricklayer on the other end, and he's going to get a bit fed up with me if I keep on bashing the line about. So when I spread the mark, I'm always trying to not touch that line. Look at my brick. If I'm going right up to the profile, I'm just going to cut that joint out at the end there slightly, and it won't squidge out when I put that brick down. I'm going to go right up to the profile and just gently tap that down, and I'm going to cut that muck off rather than smear it up. So by holding the trowel in that angle, I can take that muck off without smearing it all over the face of the brick. Trying to keep my perp joints full, and I'm also lining up my brick with the first course laid so that my perp joints are in line. That way I can keep everything evenly spaced throughout the length of the wall. It's important to not put too much muck down, because it's got to go somewhere. If you put too much muck down and you're bashing and bashing, it's all going to squidge out the sides, it's going to go down the back, and worse, it's going to run down the face and smear up your face brickwork. So when I put the perp joint on, the idea is you do it as quickly as possible. So I do 1, 2, 3, and I've got plenty at the front there, so that means that I'm going to have a nice full perp joint when I squeeze it up to the last brick I just laid. Another method some guys use is just put that perp joint on in one go, like so. last one should just drop right in there with a nice back joint. There we go. But now I'll do it for the money. With all of the weight of the wall is transferred down through the joints, so the joints must be full up. See a lot of guys rush and tear and they just butter that front edge and the main part of the joint is empty, which just allows rain to blow straight through the joint into the cavity. So very important to fill up with your joints. So I've done that, now line up to my next mark. So again, 75mm increments each time we move up a course. Lay bricks frog up. The only time you would ever lay a brick frog down is if you were trying to grind down maybe over a lintel or getting down to the gauge if you're having a problem. So I'm maintaining nice full joints all the way, so later on that will make my pointing so much easier and have less filling to do. Make sure we're not tipping, because bricks can tip forwards or backwards, depending on how we put them down. So if I bed that brick down and it's tipping forwards, then I'm going to see that other arris of the last brick, or the other edge I should say. If I'm tipping backwards, then we'll see the bottom of that brick sticking out. What we ideally want is to line up those two edges when we put the brick down, and then you won't see that kind of zigzag effect up the face of the brickwork, which you often see when 75mm. So far I've come backwards, but you can also come from the other direction, because oftentimes there's another bricklayer on the end of the line with you, and you need to be good at going forwards or backwards. So the difference is that you just butter the other end of the brick. We don't need to on the first one because we're going up against the profile. So I'm going to come in the opposite direction this time. So some guys prefer going this way, but some guys prefer going this way. It's always good when you have a combination of one left-handed bricklayer and one right-handed bricklayer, because the way you stand round it works better. So this time I'm buttering the back end of the brick instead of the front end of the brick. Exactly the same process, 1, 2, 3, and then squeeze it up. Checking I'm in line, my pert's in line. Draw it down to the line. Pert's in line. Get the wheels in line, get the wheels in line. Michael Caine would say. Bricklaying gets easier the higher up you get. So bending over, you get a bad back. Oh. Waist height is optimum. So the quicker you get these initial courses done, the sooner you get to stand up straight. And the fact that I had somebody do the first 2 courses for me is better, because that means I can stand up straight quicker. Pert joints, or the perpendicular joints, should be no more than 10mm wide. I think 8mm looks better, but it all depends on the type of bricks, because some bricks have much squarer, sharper corners, so you can get away with a slightly wider joint. If a brick is more rustic with rounded edges, and then you do bucket handle pointing, it makes the joint look bigger than it actually is, so you need to have those joints even tighter, and when you point up it makes them look bigger. Lots of different ways, lots of different methods to lay bricks basically, but everybody finds their own way of doing it. Some people use the pick and dip method. I won't explain that, but you can look that up on YouTube. I've laid out enough for 4 or 5 bricks there, but I've only done that because these bricks are quite wet, so I know it's not going to suck. Sometimes on a hot day, if the bricks are really dry, the weather's hot, you lay that much muck down and you haven't got a chance to put the bricks down before it's gone hard. So as a beginner, I would recommend just laying enough muck down for 1 or 2 bricks at a time until you get up to speed. And then depending on the conditions, depending on the bricks themselves also, you can then determine whether you lay a longer bed or not. Once you get them up right, then you should be able to just push that brick down into the bed. So generally you have pressure on the back of the brick and then a couple of taps on the front, or use the handle of your trowel to tap down, depending how fine-tuned you want it to be. Gently tap, 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 making sure we're not tipping, arris to arris, edge to edge. Keeping our joints nice and full. Lovely. Okay, so I've used some old bricks, I've used some sand and lime mortar so that it can all be demolished again. It's a practice piece. If you guys are building a garden wall or a barbecue or anything like that, obviously you'll want to use sand and cement to make it permanent. So for a garden wall, for any standard bricklaying, you're looking at 5 and 1. 5 sand, 1 of cement. Anything underground, or if it's a retaining wall, should be a bit stronger, more like 3 or 4 and 1, probably 3 and 1 really. But you don't want to make the muck harder than the bricks, because you have an expansion and contraction issue and causes a phenomenon called spalling. So over the seasons, brickwork gets wet and it gets dry in the change of the seasons. And if the mortar joints are harder than the actual bricks themselves, they can't expand and contract at the same rate. So the bricks will swell up and push against the joints and blow the faces out. And you'll have seen that on old buildings. And that generally means that the mortar's too strong. Sometimes places have been built with the correct mortar but have been repointed with a mortar which is far too strong for the bricks, and then it just causes damage. Okay, so that's stretcher bond. I've basically done 4 courses there, just to give you an idea of how straightforward it can be. Simple things to observe and simple rules. In the next video, I will we'll have a look at pointing, so bucket handle or half round pointing. Okay, thanks for watching guys, see you on the next one.